All right, guys, this will be our first Zoom together. I am um, AJ Knutson. I w- just wanted us to get together and we're going to start this new series on building an offense. And tonight we're basically just going to scratch the surface and talk about formations. And one thing I want to just note for you guys right off the bat is that I will not tell you what to do. This is not, I'm not going to come on here and tell you you're going to run this offense, these formations, these are your plays. No, no, no. I'm going to have you brainstorm. We're going to brainstorm throughout this stuff. Um, and I'm going to ask you all kinds of questions to checklist to look at your offense and look at your formations and why are we running certain formations, why are we running certain plays. Um, is there something we're missing, taking advantage of? Is there something that we don't have time for? Why are we wasting our time running this if it doesn't work? So that's basically why I wanted to get us together. So before we get started, I got my first ever sponsorship, so I'm very excited about that. The guy reached out to me, and so it's with thecoachpad.com. Um, are you a coach who still prints off stacks of templates to draw your scout cards by hand? And that was me. Or do you use a program on a computer to create them? The coach pad will save you time by never printing paper and stuffing a binder again. The coach pad allows you to clearly display scout cards outdoors in the bright sun. Has been a game changer for programs in their weekend prep on the practice field and even on game day, syncing diagrams from the press box to the sideline. So you can visit thecoachpad.com to improve your practice prep and scout card workflow with the coach pad. And I put the link in the chat. So you can click that link if you want to go check it out. Um, so I appreciate Coach reaching out to me on that and doing that with me. Um, just for since we're starting out new with this, and I see we have a new couple of new coaches. Another coach I worked with um, for the last 4 years. We've been hanging out and doing these zooms together. But for the guys that don't know me, I am the creator of Gun Spread Option Football, the group and the page. I'm the creator of that. I'm also the admin of with the youth and middle school air raid group. I've also been on the Ron Mackey show with him and did his podcast. I've been on the Pat and Go show with Matt Lasker. I've also did a webinar series on my offense, the gun spread offense, with his air raid offense. We did a 5-part webinar series. As a player, I was a state champion, and then I coached 3 years of semi-pro, and then I've also coached varsity football for 9 years, and then my last season I was the ninth grade D coordinator. Um, and then so the big reason why am I starting this up? Hold on, guys. Just making sure coaches are getting on here. Um, why did I decide to do this right now? Well, I posted a simple question in the group in 3 groups. How do you know you are calling a successful offensive play? And the seasoned vets, the guys that have been doing this a long time, had great answers. It starts with practice plans, diagrams, drills, how to teach the kids. A lot of guys say, it's Sunday night when you're watching, after you watch film, when you've scouted, when you're doing your scout film, you already know what plays and formations are going to work. And then I had a lot of guys say they don't know, or we have to wait till we watch the game film after the game's done. That is that is too late, guys. If you're having to see the result of the play to know that it's successful, that is no good whatsoever. So that's why I'm like, no, I got to grab these guys now and help them out in any way I can. And that's why I brainstormed and got going on this right away. Because when I saw those answers, I'm like, there's coaches out there that really need help, and that's what I'm about. And again, for me, it's about free help. Everything I've done, I've not made a dime off of anything I've done the last 4 years with creating this stuff. It's always about free content for just helping guys out. And so that's why we're doing that. Oh, here we go. You're welcome, buddy. You can, another thing too, I want to say, as I'm talking, if you have a question or a comment, there's literally four of us right now. Hopefully, there's more going to join here in the next 15, 20 minutes as we're rolling through this. Just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away. Because there's only four of us on here right now. So we can be very, very intimate and really talk this out together tonight. So the next thing I want to talk about, especially for guys that are just starting out, being maybe a youth coach, maybe working in their own feeder program, maybe just doing like a 9U or 10U team, picking a system to learn and understand is very important. And systems include like the wing tee, whether it's traditional under center or like the Kenny Simpson's gun tee, like the old, slot tee, whether it be option football, whether it be eye or split back, or in our case, or gun. Um, Whether you want to go spread, and then with the spread, do you want to go air raid? Do you want to go to the power spread? But having that as a base offense and understanding everything about that system, so you have all the answers, is crucial to having a successful offense. So when you call a formation and a play, you know it's going to work because you have taught it to your players, you have practiced it, you have perfected it, and everybody knows what's going on, what the expectations are. That's why we're doing this. And then, flexbone, yes, it's formation, but wishbone, I formation, empty, those are all welcome, coach, who just joined us now. So, like the flexbone, that's it can be triple option, does not necessarily has to be. And then wishbone, again, probably triple option, could be mostly just power, could be quick trap. But again, some of those type of offenses will limit you on formations because I've been a part of those back in my playing days and when I first started coaching. So the first thing, is there any questions or comments on that, guys, first before we move forward? And welcome, Coach Jason. I did do the plug already for the coaching pad already, so thank you for that. um, so what I'll kind of show you on mine here. I can share a screen here with you guys, and we'll start with this. Share, and I'm going to go to my formations. And what I want you guys to really look at on the formations is, even if our base formation is just what we have, what I call shoot here, this would be shoot right for us. That's besides the point. You may only run, so you may only have 2x2 formations. So you may only have these four and then some tags, and that's fine. And that's great for your offense. But I also want you to think about when I learned as a coach, especially way back when I first started, is scout formations. You really should learn, even if you only run 4 formations, you should learn how to name 60 to 80 formations, because when you're doing scout and you're running and you're trying to go on huddle and you're trying to decipher all these formations, instead of saying, oh shit, what do we call this, you should have a vocabulary and an understanding of 60 to 80 formations, because it'll really help your scout team and how you run that. So even though if you only have 40 or 4, you should really understand 60 to 80 formations. So even though I have on here, this would be our offense. We have basically 4 two back formations, but then when you add the tags of moving the backs around, you actually have 16 different formations just right here, just 16 two back formations. When you add these tags to these, we have 12 2x2, and we have 10 3x1. And then again, we'll talk about special formations later on too, what you might want to have. And so altogether, we have 42 formations. we only average 14 formations a game. So we're not using all those formations. The kids don't even have to learn all those formations, but as a coaching staff, you should understand all those formations because it really helps when you're doing scout. So that's one thing I want to make a note on when you're looking at formations. How many is enough? How many formations should you have? That is totally up to you and your understanding and what you feel you can teach your players. Um, like I said, for us, it's 42 formations is basically what we have. And that's more than enough. Like I said, we only run 14 a game on average. But I do want to say Kenny Simpson. I do want to say that Coach Kenny Simpson has books of 98 formations. He has 3 of them. So he basically has a book of 300 formations that they have vocabulary, names, and terms for. And that's huge as a coaching staff. I mean, that's a lot to know. But when you have it all written down for everybody to look at and see and be on the same page, it's huge. I just want to check my chat here. We're good there. Okay. And then another thing with Kenny Simpson is he always says that formations are cheap and plays are expensive. And that can't be any more true. Like I cut our run plays from 16 to 8. We only have 8 run plays. But if you run 8 run plays out of 14 formations, what does that look like to a defense? You take 14 times 6, or even, let's just say 10 to make it even, you have 6 run plays that you run that game out of 10 formations. That looks like 60 different plays, and really it's not. So that's what formations can do for you. And again, too, when you're choosing what offense to run, you also have to think about if you want to be under center, because of your center can only snap from under center. That's going to limit you. Or if you want to be out of the pistol, or if you want to be out of gun. And I'm also going to tell you, along with that, though, that's going to be, if you want to do all 3, well, that's 150 snaps per practice that those kids should be doing, either before practice or after practice. And actually, throughout the summer, they should be doing that too. So the more different types of snaps you do at different depths, the more practice time that takes. So we run everything under gun, but we do have one special formation under center. So we do have to practice under center. So that is, you can't afford a bad snap. So that should be 100 snaps every practice that they're together. 50 under center, 50 gun snaps. Now, again, here's another thing I want to bring up: names of formations. As you see what you can see over here what our names are. Okay. Just this formation I want to put up here we call that shoot. Okay. I've also heard coaches call this deuce. I've had them have it called normal. I've had them called it spread, and I've had them call it a color, rather be red for regular. That is, again, building a vocabulary with your staff and your players. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if I understand it. It matters if your coaching staff and your players understand what you mean. So if I say shoot right, they know exactly where to go and what we mean. If we say deuce right, they know exactly where to go and what you mean. So don't get caught up on names. But have names that make sense. That's one thing I can say about that. And then tags too. And I put the so since I'm here, so let's say if I went to tight, that would be moving the W and the X in here and the Y and the Z in here. Now we just taken those guys, moved them in one by one, and they're all close to each other. And that's just by saying shoot tight right. Now they know we're in 2 by 2. They're tight together. And then the back, now when we say right, then we know that the tight end is going to be to the right, and the back depends on the play call. for us. Other guys might have a term for their back, and if they want them right or left, might even be a color. They may say sight to right, shoot tight right, red, and that might put the bed back on the right side. And you can say lucky for left. It's simple terms like that, but you should have them written down, and you should be able to hand them to your coaches and players so they understand, so you're all on the same page when it comes to formations. Now I want to go to I'll go to my screen here. And this is something that we're going to spend a lot more time on coming up right here. We're going to spend a whole entire night on just this. And this video I have on this has about 1,000 views. This is the old way of doing an insertion plan. We at my high school we used to do 10. After doing Zooms with Coach Joe Salas and learning from the air raid guys like Matt Lasker that are my two main contacts for the air raid. They Coach Salas had went from a 4-day to a 3-day, and he's got a video on that. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense to me. Now when we get to summer, day one, we know that we're running these 4 plays. We're inserting that 4 plays. The next practice, we're running these. The next practice, running that. The next practice after that. Now you get to your 5th practice, you go back to day one. So if you have 8 summer practices, you've already installed your entire offense twice. Before you even get to fall camp, you've already installed it twice. And then you have 2 weeks before the season starts. So now you have another 2 full weeks of that. So by the time you get to your season, you've already installed your whole entire offense 4 times by doing a 4-day insertion. And 3-day obviously gives you even more reps. 10 days is very slow. And that's why I'm like, I took this when I went to that. So you're always going to involve and make changes if it makes sense to you and it benefits your team. Always adapt and make changes. And to shorten down our playbook, I did have to condense and get rid of some run plays and change some stuff up. That's totally fine. It's not going to hurt our offense. By us knowing these plays instead of learning all this is probably going to make us a better team. So that's another thing you have to decide when you're doing your formations. And then, okay, so what day are we going to teach what formations? So if you only have 4 practices, and like for us, we have 42 formations, well, then we have to be very organized, very detailed on how we're going to install 42 formations in 4 days. That's a lot. So that's another thing to take into consideration. So, and then another thing for us, as you see on here, we are in, guys, and now this is new for me too. So if you got questions on this, let me know. But personnel packages, we are in 21 personnel, which means 2 backs and 1 tight end. So RW is a wide receiver. He's also the running back, and he's also the motion back. Our S's are die back because we are a triple option team on a gun. So, Coach Deason, can you please jump on it and tell me what the spread guys, what's this guy called and what's this guy called? Are you with me?
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute there.
Yep.
You're looking at, I guess, let me get the screen up here.
Would that be
So,
H?
Yeah, we go A. We call him A, all purpose. That can be your fullback right there.
Okay.
Or it can be another tight end. And then we'll go H or, tailback there.
Okay.
S, we call them scat back if they're S. So that's a kid, like if you're using personnel, that's a kid that's, good on swing routes. He's good in protection. If he's good that, you want to have blocking the edge for you and really set his feet, get wide, and then get off the block and out in the route, pretty steadily. And then, of course, Y and Z. So we have X, A, H, Y, and Z, or, vice versa. You may have 2 X's out there. Yeah.
Thank you. And so, like you said, this could be an S. Now, if that was an S, right, that would, and you brought in a back, you might go, what would that be? That would be 30 personnel. You'd have 3 backs in the game and no tight end. Some guys might
That's
sub in
correct.
four wide receivers and have one back, and that's 10 personnel. So, but for us, we're 21 personnel on on all these, all these. The only one we're not is when we go flanker. Um, Even our wildcat is in our empty. So the only one we don't go that is when we go flanker right down in the goal line, and we're subbing in a tight end, an extra tight end for the receiver. Other than that, we're in 21 personnel the whole time, and that's huge for us. But other guys have more time and have different personnel and want to work in certain concepts with certain players, and so that becomes a lot more detailed again, more time consuming, and it has to be part of your plan. It can't just be something you're going to throw in at a game like, hey guys, we're going 10 personnel. Coach, what's 10 personnel? It's got to be talked about. It's got to be taught over and over and over again so these kids can grasp what you're teaching them. Um, and then again, red zone and goal line packages. Um, we don't have a red zone. That's part of our normal offense, but this is our goal line package. We are going to go under center and we will run outside veer from under center, and then ton is a tag if we want to go tackle over and go unbalanced, which again would be a special formation. So that's also something to consider. Do you want to change your offense for those two areas? And what does that look like? And when are you going to install that? Again, you got 4 days. If you're going to do a 4 day install, or if you're going to do a 3 day install, you only got 3 days. When are you going to work that into your practice schedule? I already talked about the vocabulary. And then how do you call your formations? I want to go to huddle on this. This is another very important thing and something I had to learn. So my coach called this would be twins right. Made no sense to me. Why is it twin right? Because his thing was we're going to call the run strength every time. So that to some guys this would be twins left. To us it's twins right. Again, as a coaching staff and what makes sense to you and your players, you have to just decide, and usually your head coach is going to decide how you're going to call this. So to me, this is pro right or pro twins right because the tight end's on the right. So that's something to that's just a little thing that I had to get used to coming from my high school to coaching semi-pro was how to call the formations out. So that's another thing you got to come out together and talk about. And then, like for us, this would be S's with Y. So for us, this is our bunch. But you also might want to call this tight bunch because if you want to do regular bunch, you also could do regular bunch over here and run a bunch over at the numbers because you're maybe wanting to see if you can get a run box over here. So this could be your regular bunch, and again, if they're in close, tight bunch. So like I said, if I was going to do shoot, this should be for us. This is shoot. We go tight shoot. There's tight shoot. So just by using a simple tag word, now those guys, it totally changes up where they line up. And then another thing too, you might want to have a word for we're going shoot right, tight left, or tight weak. So now these guys are going to be tight, and these guys are going to be normal. So you got to think of tag words that make sense to your system on how to move the guys around where you want them or where you need them. Because there's some great plays over here. You can run your regular concept and you can rub your rub concepts over here. And you might, depending on if you see a bunch of different coverages, you might like a certain play over here and over here. And if the safety's in the middle, well, we're going to this side. If the safety's over here, we're going to this side. If they shift over here, because we got all these guys are thinking run over here, then it might open up the pass over here. So again, that can be a lot, and it might be something you want to do and need, and it might be like, no, that's too much. Like we don't do this ourselves in our offense, but like I said, if we're watching a scout film and a team does this, we have the vocabulary in our system to tag this formations for scout team, which really helps out when you're doing scout cards as coach. As we talked about the coach the coach pad. Um, Instead of being, getting up, you see this formation, like, oh shoot, what am I going to call this? And then you got to, you know, um, and then you got to try to make something up on the fly. So that's what I'm talking about with formations and naming formations, to have that vocabulary. And for us, we are not a wing team by any means. And so for us, if we're like, okay, we're going to go against a gun wing team, um, we'd probably have to, it kind of be kind of long. We'd have to say wing right, twins left, and something like that. But and if you've seen Kenny Simpson stuff in his books, to them this is just, I think it's blue. It's either blue or red. It's just a color to them. So again, it's what you're comfortable with, and it's what you know. So with that, guys, um, I do want to show you this book. If you can see on my screen, get to my camera here. Can you guys see that? This would be Coach Anthony Stone, Back to the Basic. He has a whole entire book on just offense, on just an offensive book. Everything you need to know for your offense is in this book. It's a great book. Um, this is the first Kenny Simpson one. He's got a full playbook out. Um, Sometimes what's nice about books is um, it shows you a way of a coach, how they do it, how they organize it. They're very organized books, they're very detailed books, and it just kind of gives you some brainstorming for your own stuff. Um, so some of the bad things in books is you may not know how they work for you and how they benefit you and how they translate to your team. And if they don't translate to your team, well, then you just spent $35 on something that doesn't help you out at all. And that's why I wanted to do this for free, because and I want guys to be able to reach out to me on Messenger and Facebook, um in this chat, and then in my group. You can always post a question in the group, in my Gunsmith Option group, and you'll get I think I have 5,000 coaches in there. So um probably get 20 to 30 responses from guys that know even more than I do, and maybe be able to give you some good advice on stuff. So with that, as far as formation goes, does anybody have any questions or comments that wants to add questions to this recording? Because I see we have a bunch of coaches on right now, so that's good. I can read the chat now, and if you just want to throw it in the chat or unmute, go ahead and fire away before we wrap this thing up. Again, because we've only been at this about 30 minutes. The next one we're going to go into plays. I didn't want to do that tonight because I thought that I had 220 interested. We didn't get great numbers, but I know I'll probably get a lot of views in the groups this week, and hopefully more guys join us next time. But and then this is also formation, so a lot of guys probably like, oh, I already know our formations, and I don't need help with that, and that's totally fine. And I can tell you with us that the defense actually dictates how we call our offense. And some coaches, especially air raid guys, are like, no, that's not okay. That's, they're so good at their offense. But right now, if we were to see if we were to see a 4-2, let me get rid of these guys. We know that we can stay and shoot. 5-on-6, we have the numbers. We're golden. If they were to switch to a 4-3, okay, let me change this guy to a backer. If they were to switch to a 4-3, then we're going to add a tight end because now it's 5-on-7, and we only have one run play that we can actually run. So for our offense, the defense does dictate what we do. And now we're going to switch to 6 linemen. And then we can run all of our plays, no problem. And then if they were to go strictly cover 0 and run a 4-4 against this spread and be like, go ahead and try to beat us with a pass, then we probably bring this guy over because there's no use motioning him. It's going to put the free safety back up over here. And we're probably going to sit in our 2-back stuff, and now we could run either direction. So the defense to us does dictate what we run as far as formations go. And that's totally fine with us. Now I know when I watch film that they're going to sit in here and they're probably going to give us a 3-1. They're going to check to our tight end. That I'm okay with that. I already know that we can run outside veer here. We can run inside veer here. We can still run Uno. I already know that all these plays, if we call them, are going to be successful. Just by watching film and knowing that they're coming out with this. If I got my 6 guys and they know where to go because we've taught it to them, we practiced it, we perfected it, we know what we can do. So I have not seen anybody. Oh, here we got one in the chat. Other guys, can you guys see? Can you guys all see this? Can somebody just in the chat say yes? Because Coach Deason was seeing. Our guys.
Coach, I'm just seeing the one spreadsheet that's got the shoot and stuff on the left. I think you've been moving some things around. Maybe I just can't see it with the platform I'm on.
Right now I'm in huddle. There should be a football diagram in front of you.
Yeah. Yes, I don't see that one.
Okay, let me do this. Maybe Can you see it now, Coach Deason?
Yes, I see that now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Good. So sorry, I might have been nobody might have been able to see that at all during the whole entire thing. I don't know. For us, this is slot right, and then again so for us this is slot right, and the play call he'll line up to the right unless the play call tells him otherwise. Because what we'll do here is we'll line up slot right and we'll go 13 veer, and that's going to put him over here. Let's give you a little preview of what we're going to do. Another thing too is when we get to doing plays next week, when we talk about this, some guys tell me that this isn't veer or because there's no pitch man. That's not true. Some guys will run triple option. This is be your midline. This is inside veer. That's outside veer. That's not the case for us either. Outside veer for us is blocking 1, reading 2, pitching off 3. That's it. Inside veer would be if I was to do inside veer over here, we're going to go there, load him to the safety. That's inside veer for us. And we're just like that. And we will add a pitch back. We will have to motion the W and put the S over here. So the play call dictates, we'll say 12 inside veer. He knows that he's running up here. He's got the motion. If this kid here doesn't know to motion, then we'll say Wally. We have if you want to talk about shifts and trades, we can do that tonight too. I'll probably go over them next week. This would be a Wally motion. That helps that kid remember that he's got a motion to the strong side. And then we're off to the races. That is inside veer for us because we are reading 1, pitching off 2. If we were to want to run outside veer, we like running it to the 1 technique. To us, this is outside veer. I don't care what these guys do. They don't even need to block because we're just going to take advantage of that. And we're off to the races. Here's your 1 on this side. Here's your 2. Block 1, read 2, pitch 3. You don't need a pitch back. There's nobody to pitch off of. That's what's great about formations. We just taken that defense. Like I said, they put 7 in the box. We're fine. Now we're just going to go. To us, that's outside veer because outside veer to us is block 1, read 2, pitch 3. Don't need a pitch back. To some guys, this might be zone read. That's totally fine. But again, you guys all have to be on the same page on what you're going to call this. But to us, this is outside veer. And a lot of some veer coaches will laugh at me about that. But because we're calling it as a blocking scheme, and we always have. Whether we were under centers, split back, whether we were flex bone, and once we evolved it to gun, it's always been based on the blocking scheme. And we have no midline and no inside veer to this side because if they're in the A gap, then we automatically audible to outside veer. So we have the if and thens pre-snap, which is another thing I was going to bring up. Another thing I was going to bring up. Oh, sorry, guys. What was I just talking about? I was checking the chat again. Totally lost my train of thought. Sorry. Anybody got anything on formations that they want to see? And like I said, with systems, flexbone can be a system, or wishbone can be a system. If you want your system to stay consistent in everything you do, it limits you on that. You can do that. You can do this, or you can do that. That's it. I mean, that's your 3 formations, unless you do anything unbalanced. That's your basic 3 formations for wishbone. And then you can run all your same plays out of all those, obviously. And what I strongly suggest you do is for your kids' sake, teach them a system and don't. I mean, I'm kind of what I did is I did take here we go. I did mesh since I learned air raid and became an expert on it. Very limited though. So I only took 3 concepts, 3 quick passes, and 1 drop back. Coach Decent, since he's on here, he has a great Zoom video on formations and how he tags it and numbers it using colors and numbers. And I have that in the gun spread option group. I will tag that this week. So if you guys are interested in how he does it, you can check that out. I've had him on, I think probably 3 times. We've done 3 or 4 different Zooms together over the last 4 years on that. So again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm only just kind of gives you some of the pros and the cons of what I kind of came up with as far as formations goes and to consider. Coach Decent, do you have anything you want to add? I know you've presented before many times to many people in formations.
Yeah, I just say, just keep it simple. and don't, try to get too extravagant. I think the thing that people need the most is a way to protect your offense when you're using formations and personnel groups. A lot of guys, 10, 11-year-old, little league coaches, they're not really using personnel groupings. They're not running in 3 or 4 different kids. There's some. Don't get me wrong. There's some teams out there that can do that, but normally you got 11 kids out there. Those are the ones you're playing with. And to really open your offense up, I think having the ability to have a system that's easily usable for kids, it translates easily, and that you can move in and out of formations to take advantage of the defense, really gives you more of an advantage, for any team, against any team. I mean, we've played teams that clearly were way better than us. We just formation them to death. And a lot of times what you have to think about is if you're in the junior high and high school levels, they only have a certain amount of time to break you down. And if you're giving them 3 or 4 extra hours of looking at your offense and your formationing and what you actually do out of those plays, I can make, the same 4 plays look like 5 different plays.
Exactly.
And or more, just depending on what formations we get into. So it's really an advantage to get you into a successful play is kind of what, AJ was talking about. The reason why we're talking about this whole thing is you need to know what your offense is successful with and what formations work the best for you to make you successful when you call the play. Like I'm looking at a defense, I know that I need to get in 456 and I'm running zone right because the defense has dictated that to me. And if they want to do that, then I'm going to do this. So, having an if and then system, having a way to move your kids easily, I think is the best thing that we can do for these kids as coaches. But go back to what AJ talked about. If you don't have a system, if you don't have a easy way to call formations that your kids can remember or that your coaching staff can get to quickly, then you need a system. And I think, the point that he's trying to make here is you have to have a complete system that you can install in a short amount of time that's not going to take you 2 or 3 hours of practice every week just to go over your formations. Once you get that in, then you can open your offense up and do what you want to do. But AJ's got a great deal here. They've really condensed their sets. I like what he does with the motions and only having a few key terms. I think, will speed any offense up, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach Deason. Anybody else got anything that you want to comment or talk about right now before we wrap this thing up? Feel free. Just unmute and talk. We can just talk some stuff out that you might want to see or information or what you want, like some ideas on how to call a certain formation. For me growing up, this was my formation. And from 7th grade to 12th grade, this was my formation. Flanker right, flanker left. That's all we had in high school. From 7th grade to 12th grade, I learned one offense. This was it. And then when I started coaching, we went to flex. They were in flex mode. We ran midline, veer, toss, jet sweep, some quarterback sweep. Very simple. Basically, had 4 run plays, 4 base run plays, and that was basically it. So, and then during that time, I was coaching semi-pro, and then the head coach / quarterback of the semi-pro team, he taught me his whole entire offensive system, which was multiple formations, and I had a lot to learn. But once I learned it now over the years, it's phenomenal because up until then, I basically had learned six formations, um, coaching and playing. That's it. So, and again, if you only are running these formations and then our D coordinator sitting there, well, what are we going to call this? What are we going to call this? What are we going to call this when we're trying to scout and break down teams? Um, because you scout a team that did this, they would they would be in formations like this. This was a team in Minnesota that we played against. They had no idea what to call this. It's like, okay, and then so they basically had to draw it out for the and make up a name for it. Um, so again, having a name, having a vocabulary set as a staff written down is very important. What are you going to call stuff? Because then from there, I've seen it many ways, and I know everybody on here has. You can run one formation and run 20 plays out of one formation. Um, but I'm one that rather run two plays out of 16 formations because that defense, especially those young kids that are 15, 16, 17 years old, and even some inexperienced coaches, when they see 16 different formations, their head spinning. I mean, we literally ran two plays all game, um, maybe just veer left and right out of 16 formations. They have no clue what's coming or what it looks like. So me, I'm one. I'm more for guys that run very limited plays, like the air raid guys do, out of um, many formations. So that's why I wanted to jump on and just talk formations tonight. So with that, guys, basically got one more minute to throw a question in the chat or on mute, or else I'm going to stop the recording. So there's only 5 of us on. Anybody got anything before we go? And I know I had a lot of guys interested, so I'm gonna plug this before we leave. So next Sunday night, 7 p.m. Central, for the guys watching this, we will recap just a basic thing about formations, and we're gonna jump into plays and what that looks like and what plays look like and how we're gonna teach and accomplish teaching plays. So we're gonna combine recap formations, go into plays, run plays, pass plays, play action passes, boot passes, RPOs, all that stuff. We're gonna cover next Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. So with that, I'm going to stop this recording. Stop the recording. I got to stop my share first. Thanks, guys, for jumping on with me tonight. Hopefully, there's a bunch more for us next week.